think December too well. I think it's appropriate to say that all through December, let's put it that way. Awesome. So this morning, if you were to title my sermon, if we could just have that second slide there, Josh. Oh, he's bringing it up. So if I was to title my sermon this morning, I would call it, drum roll please. Yep, that's good. Stand, present. There we go. Thank God for that baby. Hooray.
That's what that is.
So I want to talk this morning really about a revelation that I had a few weeks back at one of our home groups, and I realised something, so I'm going to talk about that. But first I thought we would set the scene for the Christmas story. So, perfect timing. Children, if you want to come sit up the front, I've got a really special video that tells us about Jesus and his birth. So if there's any kids in the house who want to, you can come sit on the front row even to watch the special video. They don't have to. They're just more than welcome to. Thank you, Alicia. You are holding down the fort for all of the children. Maggie, do you want to see the special video? You want to come down? Right, Josh is just going to play that for us.
Jake, you want to go to the front?
You can come down if you want. Come and watch.
The angel came to see Mary. She was doing laundry, and then the angel disappeared. She was scared. So Gabriel was like, Mary, you're gonna have what? I can't say it. Mary, you're gonna have a baby. You're gonna have a baby. You will call him Jesus. And then they're like, I'm not gonna have a baby yet. I'm only a teenager. I'm not married. Then the angel Gabriel told Joseph that Mary is not lying. You are having a baby. And so they met up. They went to Bethlehem, which was Joseph's old town. They ride a donkey. A camel. Oh yeah. She said, this donkey's fast. Well, they tried to go to a hotel and they asked the keeper for a place to stay. The keeper said, we have no rooms. Literally, no rooms. So Mary and Joseph walked away sadly, but then he said, the only place here in Bethlehem that you can stay is stable. And then he just pointed the way and they followed. When the shepherds were taking care of the sheep, they saw angels. The angel said, a new baby gave born, who is King of the Jews. The angel was singing. Yes. And then the shepherd said, I think we should go to the meeting. Second, I said, yeah, I agree with you. And the other said, yeah, me too. They had to walk through a bunch of grass, bushes, maybe have to camp out at night. And then the wise men heard about it, and then a star appeared.
You don't follow that star. It's pointing down to the barn.
So maybe we should follow it. Maybe. So the wise men went to Jesus.
They gave them gifts.
A stuffed animal, some diapers, get some white, get some milk, some shoes, some Jordan, girlfriend,
And I don't know how to survive in that barn. Too stinky, too crowded,
I think he probably, because the room was very small. Thank you for coming.
He's adorable.
He's gonna be our best friend.
I love you, and you're the best baby I ever seen. I said,
New baby is gonna change the world.
Isn't that lovely?
I knew it would work.
You knew it would work, yes. I think George, I showed George before the service, and he said, oh, that's very good, Mum, we should use that. Awesome. I just love that so much. I love that the kids have told that story and they get most of it pretty correct. And I love when they say, what gifts do you think they brought? And they say, well, you would need diapers and wipes and anyways. But that song that Sarah Esther sang this morning was beautiful, where it talked about how the gifts actually prophesied Jesus' birth. And it's just wonderful. So this morning, in the spirit of Christmas, I thought I would look at a portion of scripture known as the Sermon on the Mount. Yes. Some nods. Okay, that's good. So we come to the Sermon on the Mount. Whoa. We can just go to that next slide. So just before we get there, we see here in Luke 1, he will be great and he will be called the Son of the Most High. The Lord of God will give him the throne of the father David, and he will reign over Jacob's descendants forever, and his kingdom will never end. So we see that in Luke as we're hearing the whole story of Jesus' birth. The Sermon on the Mount, however, comes a little bit further in, and if you're reading in Matthew's Gospel, it is only in chapter 5. So Jesus is baptised. I love the story of the baptism of Jesus, because as he comes out of the water, he says, the Father says, "This is my Son with whom I'm well pleased." And I love the fact that the Father says, "I'm well pleased with him," and he's yet to do anything, really. It's right at the beginning of his ministry. He's then tested in the wilderness. He then calls his first few disciples. He heals the sick. And then we come to the Sermon on the Mount. Now, some people say that this is a collection of teachings from various times that Jesus taught, not necessarily just the first time, not necessarily one continuous sermon. There's arguments for and against that, but what I do really believe and hold true to is that this is the divine word of God, and how Matthew has put it together is in this particular order. We've got Jesus, he's done a few things, and now he's sitting down to teach. So we're going to make our way through this morning. If you want to read along, we're reading from Matthew chapter 5, and I'm going to start at about verse 17, which is where things start to get a little bit interesting. It says, "Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them." So straight out, Jesus is saying, I'm coming, and I haven't come here to just get rid of the law. And so often we think, well, Jesus, that was the Old Testament, and people were just wanting something completely new. And he said, I haven't come to abolish it, but to fulfill it. "For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth disappear, not the smallest letter, not the least stroke of a pen, will by any means disappear from the law until everything is accomplished. Therefore, anyone who sets aside one of the least of these commands and teaches others accordingly will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever practices and teaches these commands will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I tell you that unless your righteousness surpasses that of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, you will certainly not enter the kingdom of heaven." So straight out, we're saying, okay, well, we've got to be super righteous and fulfill all these things, otherwise we will not enter the kingdom of heaven. That's very interesting. Jesus then goes on to talk about murder. So it says, you've heard it was said that the people long ago, you shall not murder, and anyone who murders will be subject to judgment. But I tell you that anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment. Again, anyone who says to a brother or sister, Raka, is answerable to the court, and anyone who says, you fool, will be in danger of the fire of hell. Therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar, and there you remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled to them, then come and offer your gift. Settle matters quickly with your adversaries, who is taking you to court. Do not do it while you are still together on the way, or your adversary may hand you over to the judge, and the judge may hand you over to the officer, and you may be thrown into prison. Truly I tell you, you will not get out until you have paid the last penny. So again, some of this is quite good life advice, but it seems really harsh straight out. If you are angry at your brother, then you might as well have murdered him. And you think, my goodness, this is very full on. And then he goes on to talk about adultery. It says, you have heard said that you shall not commit adultery, but I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. And if your right eye causes you to stumble, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to stumble, cut it off and throw it away, for it is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to go to hell. It's getting pretty intense now, yes? Anyone thinking this is a strange Christmas message, Pastor Jesse? Yes. It's okay. There's an end point. He then goes on to talk about divorce. He says, it's been said, anyone who divorces his wife must give her a certificate of divorce. But I tell you that anyone who divorces his wife, except for sexual immorality, makes her the victim of adultery, and anyone who marries a divorced woman commits adultery. He then talks about oaths. Again, you've heard it said that the people long ago do not break an oath, but fulfill to the Lord the vows you have made. But I tell you, do not swear on an oath at all, either by heaven, for it is God's throne, or by earth, for it is the footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great King. And do not swear by your head, for you cannot make even one hair white or black. All you need to say simply, yes or no. Anything beyond this comes from the evil one. That's pretty full on as well. An eye for an eye, you've heard it said that an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, but I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other cheek. Also, and if anyone wants to sue you and take your shirt, hand over your coat as well. If anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with them 2 miles. Give the one who asks you, and do not turn away from the one who wants to borrow from you. This particular portion is quite popular in in Christian teaching. You know, we talk about giving of people, turning the other cheek, that kind of thing. And the last bit I want to look at is Matthew 5, love for enemies. You've heard it said, love your neighbour and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. He causes his sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain to the righteous and the unrighteous. And if you love those who love you, then what reward will you get? Are you not even the tax collectors? Are not even the tax collectors doing that? And if you greet only your own people, what are you doing more than others? Do not even pagans do that? Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect. So we read all of that, and we come to the end and we realise that we are expected to have perfection. This is all pretty heavy, and I've often kind of skirted around the Sermon on the Mount and thought, well, they're really great ideals, but how achievable are they? This morning, and as I said before, we see this teaching is presented to us really early on in Jesus' life. And this morning, as we talk about Christmas, as we talk about that baby in the manger, I want us to realise something. The Sermon on the Mount is not a list of do's and don'ts. It's not a list of things that we need to get right as Christian people to get into heaven. What Jesus is doing here, I believe, is setting up himself. So we know that Jesus died on the cross to take away our sins and to bring us back into relationship with God. And there is tons of verses in the New Testament that talk about us being a new creation. Yes? Yep. And so when Jesus is teaching this, he's saying, you cannot do this on your own. Thank you, Josh. And I realised this, and I picked up a little book earlier this year, just for some kind of nighttime reading, and looked at it a little bit with the youth. But I was looking at, the Sermon on the Mount and going through all those teachings, and I thought, he's basically explaining to them, once again, and it's another thing that we miss, and I love, and I find it really interesting when Jesus does die on the cross, just how lost the disciples are. I'm like, but he's been telling you this is going to happen. And once again, he's telling us why we need him. We're not capable of doing this on our own. We can't just keep to the 10 Commandments, which is what was popular in the day, as you kept the law and you kept the rules. We go back to that first slide there, Joshua, verse 17. It says, do not think that I've come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth disappear, the smallest letter, not the least stroke of a pen, will by any means disappear from the law until everything is accomplished. So he's saying right from the beginning, I haven't come to abolish the law, but I've come to fulfill the law. So through Jesus, we are capable of these things.
Amen.
And we see in that imagery, you're better off to cut off an arm. No one, and we think, we read that and go, okay, well, I'm taking that I want to take your word literally, God, but you know, this hand once got really angry at somebody, and I think maybe I need to chop it off. Like, where does that go? But Jesus is saying, like, you would have to go to such extremes to even try and feel this yourself, and even then you would not be capable. The only way we are capable is through this beautiful little baby.
Amen.
Awesome. Awesome.
Just going to read again from Isaiah. We're just going to bring up that last slide there, Josh. It's Isaiah 9:6. For unto us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace.
Hallelujah.
We come around this Christmas season and people say, oh, you know, Jesus is the reason for the season, and we talk about these things, and like I said right at the beginning in announcements, physically I'm so tired. We had Christmas plays, we had all these things this week that children have to do, and there's lots that has to do just because it's the end of the year, and we've got to make sure everything's left clean. We go on holidays in the house and in the church, and we've got to do this and we've got to do that. But I think we just really need to stop and realise the miraculousness of who Jesus was.
Hallelujah.
Amen.
Awesome.
He is 100% the reason for the season. And just this week I was chatting with somebody, and she's like, well, you know, was Jesus' birthday really December the 25th? It likely wasn't, if you want to get really theological about it. But I just think we've been given this wonderful, almost cultural excuse to celebrate our Saviour. You know, everybody's talking about Christmas, everybody's talking about these things. It's like, did you know that we, in order to get into heaven in our own strength, would need to chop off an arm? And even then it probably wouldn't do it. Like,
That's right.
this is, he sits down and he does these teachings because he's setting himself up. He's telling people, this is not possible through your own strength. You need me.
Awesome.
Thank you, Lord.
Hallelujah. Jesus.
I'm just going to go to that next slide there, and I've read this before. I wanted to finish it, start with that and finish with it, but it says, he will be great, and he'll be called the Son of the Most High. The Lord God will give him the throne of his father David, and he will reign over Jacob's descendants forever. His kingdom will never end. Last week we sang Happy Birthday to Jesus a few times as part of the Sunday school play, and we had that wonderful cake. And George came up to me and he said, well, which birthday is it? How old is Jesus? And so I was sitting with Kate, and we're like, oh, actually I think we started counting from Jesus' death, so we have to like add 30 odd years, and anyway, so it's about 2050, 20, something like that, George. And George was like, whoa, wow. I don't know anybody else other than like people I've read about in the Bible, obviously, but the fact that we're still talking about this baby 2,000 years later just blows my mind. Like, I just think sometimes we get so comfortable sitting in church and we talk about it all the time and it's part of our life that we don't actually stop and think. We just want to, you know, be so. I just want us to all have that sense of gratitude for what Jesus has done as we come around Christmas. Can you just go to that last slide, Josh? I just thought this was a really beautiful little piece of imagery.
Hallelujah. Papa.
So we've just got this little baby in a stand. And I just think, like, I don't know, I've had babies. Can you imagine anyone that's given birth, can you imagine doing it surrounded by farm animals? No, thank you.
There's some parts you forget about.
And I remember my grandmother, who's a lovely, wonderful Christian lady, but I remember when I was pregnant, she goes, now, you're not having one of those weird home births, are you? And my main objection to home births at the time was I didn't really like the house, but like I've got no judgment. I think people should give birth how they want to give birth, provided it's safe. Anyway, I just think, you know, can you imagine Mary's being there and giving birth in that stable and knowing the magnitude of what was going to happen? And even when you birth a regular baby, not the king of the universe, you look at that little baby and you think, oh, I wonder what they're going to do with their lives. I remember being pregnant with George and someone gave me a prophetic word about him, and I just thought, oh, I'm just going to pray that over my child. I'm just going to pray that because it's just so beautiful and precious. And you look at that little face and you're like, oh, It's so wonderful. All this potential. Can you imagine Mary looking down at that baby and thinking, oh, I reckon the angel was right. I reckon there's something special about this kid.
Awesome.
So this morning, as we finish up, I wanted to give people an opportunity to respond this morning. Maybe you've journeyed with Jesus for a really, really long time, and you're just feeling a little bit busy and worn out, and you just want to take this moment to reconnect to Him as your Lord and Saviour. Maybe it's a relatively new thing for you, and you're just going, yes, Lord, I actually want to accept you as my Lord and Saviour. I want to be on this journey with you. I want to understand